Hey, hello. I done calmed down since this morning, but I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to go now. New topic. New topic. Why a national campaign could cost Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico everything. Because the national campaign puts them on two different campaign trails. A national campaign puts them on two different paths. A national campaign could cost everything that we got in place. And you may say, why? I know the question is why, because you see the title. But here's the answer to why. There's no mistake. Texas cannot afford. The title says exactly what I mean. We need to have one Texas message, or we're going to have two lost seats, because the message is going to come out divided. Let's not get it confused. Gina Hinojosa is running for the governor of Texas, Democrat. James Talarico is running for the United States Senate. Two different offices. Two different offices. Different opponents. Different responsibilities. But they are asking for your vote from the same people that are in the state of Texas. And that's the reason why I said a national message would get mixed up if it don't become a Texas message, because both of them are going to be on the same ballot when you go to the ballot box. If you don't make it a Texas message, you miss it. You're going to miss. It's a possibility that you're going to miss it, because some of those voters that's coming over, that's non-voters or don't look like us as Hispanics and Black Americans, they're coming over because they're supporting Texas. They know the damage that Governor Abbott has done to the state of Texas. They know the damage that's already there. They know the damage over the past 30 years. But if you don't give them a cause to come over and vote and let them know that you're for Texas, you're trying to improve Texas. It ain't no American agenda out there, because all of America can't vote in Texas. And if you keep going down that path at this particular point in time, it's 60, 70 days out, and you keep going down that path, it's a possibility that it could cost both seats. Texas has to be your messaging. I don't care how you put it. If you're running for the Senate, if you're running for the governor, Texas has to be your messaging in order to get people to identify with where you're going, what the campaign accomplishes, what you're trying to accomplish. Let me just say this. If either campaign allows the election to become another national politic argument, I believe both campaigns could pay the price. Because Greg Abbott doesn't need Texans talking about Greg Abbott's record. He needs Texans talking about Washington. Ken Paxton doesn't need Texans asking Texas families what do they need. He needs Texans thinking red versus blue. And if that happens, the subject has changed. His agenda is winning. He wants you to think red. But if your messaging is off and it ain't about Texas, I got a monitor down here that I keep looking into. And I can tell you I'm going to have to do this so you can understand. I'm trying to stay on point because I have so much other stuff that I want to say, but I need to stay on point for this message to make sense to some, not all, some. So when I look up here, I'm making sure that I'm on point right over there. When I look down here, I'm making sure that my video, that's my monitor. I got a piece of equipment to my left and a piece of equipment to my right in front of me. And I got Instagram over here on my right. So I have to pay attention to all of that because I don't have no behind the scenes people. I don't have nobody sitting in front of me that's cueing me. I'm doing all this on my own. So you're going to see my eyes and wonder. So call it what you want to call it. You know, we don't make accusations. I never have made accusations. I try to build a case and show you real history, real answers, real power. And this election has to stay in Texas. Turn on national television. Everyone wants your attention. Trump, Democrats, Republicans, Congress, Washington, culture wars, national personalities, national controversies, national outrage. But tomorrow morning, a Texas family still wakes up with the Texas family problems. The mortgage is still due. The rent is still due. Electric bill still arrives. Insurance premium still arrives. Groceries still have to be purchased. Someone still needs a doctor. Somebody still needs a hospital. Somebody's worried about their property tax. Somebody's worried about retirement. Somebody's still trying to keep a black, Hispanic, or small business alive in Texas. Somebody's wondering whether their child can afford a future in Texas. And that is where the election belongs. Right here. Right here. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. I say either campaign, but this only works. This only works if both candidates understand the assignment. If Gina Hinojosa turns her campaign into a national Democratic campaign, she gives Greg Abbott an opening. If James Talarico turns his campaign into a national Democratic campaign, he gives Ken Paxton the opening. If he stays focused on Texas, and some of y'all may disagree with me, if he stays focused on Texas, this is where his vote is coming from. This is where the vote is coming from. It's not coming from outside of Texas. It's coming from right here. That same Gina Hinojosa, that ballot that you get is going to have James Talarico and Gina Hinojosa on it. So your message needs to be clear. A national message can still pull both candidates into it. A Texas, let me just say this because I want to make sure I get this right. Texas, while other becomes a national, while other things become national, the national message can pull the candidates apart because voters see the same letter. Both names, Democrat and Republicans understand that we will need to try to connect both candidates to wherever is going on. Both candidates can send a message that does the same, that translates into the same language. In Texas, we can send a senator to Washington to represent the Democratic Party. We can also elect a governor and a lieutenant governor and down ballot candidates in the state of Texas. We can do both. But we have to make sure our messaging is clean. Because if you go out there and you see a American message, what are you trying to say? You're disenfranchising your own people. You're disenfranchising your own people. We're coming together to support you. And the only way that we understand who we support and how we supporting you is by a Texas message coming abroad. And I share this all the time because people that know me text me in the background because sometimes they're either at work and they can't come on, but they text me and I'll continue to look at my messages to see if I'm missing something or if it's something that they want to say within the show. So I keep my telephone on. You know, that strategy should surprise nobody. The question is what is the response? Not another national argument. Texas has always been about Texas. Yeah, we can, when we voting outside of the state for somebody outside of the state that's not representing us in any capacity, governor or senator or any down ballot candidate. Yeah, we can afford to take on a national message. We can afford to do that. But right now, this is closeout time, as anybody say. Closeout. We're in the late stages of where we should be right now. Our late stages should be focused on things that's happening in Texas. Things like, what happened to my property taxes? Texas. What happened to my insurance? Texas. What happened to my public schools? Texas. What happened to the electrical grid? Texas. What happened to affordability? Texas. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? You have to bring the conversation to Texas in order to get answers. If you're asking a Senate candidate about answers that a governor should be able to answer, because he can change Texas first. He could give Washington a new perspective, and he holds a seat where he could change the process that's going on. He can stop Trump in Washington from making a decision. And that's going to be his biggest battle, is to come on board as a unified front in Washington to stop Trump on every decision in the House, in the Senate, wherever a Democrat can cast a vote. That's the reason why we're fighting. We got two different fights on. If you don't understand the difference between the two, we lose out. Gina Hinojosa is representing Texas. James Talarico is representing Texas in D.C. He can answer your questions, and he can tell you how he feels, but the person that can make the changes for you on a day-to-day basis is Gina Hinojosa. So you ask me, how could we lose both campaigns? We could lose both campaigns by one of them running a national campaign and the other one running to be in office in Texas. We need both of them to understand that their vote comes from the same pool. It's too late in the game to have a separate pool of voters or trying to do anything different. A national campaign from the outside of Texas, and they telling you, oh, no, don't get involved in it. That's benefiting somebody outside of Texas. It's not benefiting the people that's voting for you in the state of Texas, because they don't realize that my vote is only one vote. Everybody else is only one vote in the state of Texas when they get to that ballot box. So the difference that you can make is make your messaging understood by Texans. Understood by Texans. And at this point, y'all both should be running together. Cut down all this crisscrossing across Texas, sending your message and his message and all of that. Y'all should be running together, so when a question comes up, you directing it at the person that can make a difference. This separate, but I'm the governor. This separate, I'm the senator. No, y'all, you representatives of Texas. Shouldn't nobody be selling you on that at this point in the game? Y'all should be running together. And any down ballot candidates that have an opportunity to come on board for the betterment of Texas, bring them in. Because if you got two separate agendas, the name of the show is right. It's a possibility we could lose. If you're going to unite up under different fronts, we could lose. I'm just putting it out there, and I'm not the smartest person in the room. The person that you're paying as your campaign managers should be telling you this. The person that's running you through these cities should be telling you, no, James, you can come here, but you need to bring Gina Hinojosa. It's too late in the game to make introductions. We should be working on campaigns moving forward. We should be working on an agenda of turning Texas blue. And Texas blue means that everybody has to come on board. Not separate messaging. If you don't do anything tomorrow, if you don't do anything the day after tomorrow, y'all, your campaign manager, your scheduler, whoever that is, needs to call Gina Hinojosa and start scheduling things together this close, because we don't need a separate message. And I'm on the outside looking in, and I'm telling you what I'm seeing on the media every time that I go in. I see James Talarico. I see Gina Hinojosa. Both of them got good messaging, but neither one of them are standing with each other. And this is a point that you can point out when you're there. Is that you can say, hey, when I go to Washington, I can come back and tell you what's going on in Washington to our governor, and our governor can make changes accordingly to help the people that's back here in Texas. I said it simpler earlier in one of my earlier podcasts. James Talarico is going to Washington. He's a single mother parent. His grandfather, that's a minister, is still here in Texas. So why are we going to send him to Washington if we ain't going to change the environment for his mother and his grandfather that's a preacher? And they represent everybody that's in the state of Texas. Don't leave with the ambition of becoming a senator. Leave with the ambition of making Texas blue. And Gina Hinojosa should be saying the same thing. James Talarico is part of turning Texas blue. He has a role to play in Washington. Don't be afraid to explain your roles because you think it's going to take leadership, take your authority away. No, this is about Texas now. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. And you might have to reach back and get some of those people that's out there that's coming on saying Gina Hinojosa and talking about Gina and James at the same time on different platforms. Pull them into that network and tell them, we need one message. It ain't a black and white message no more. It's not a Hispanic message. It's a message for Texas. And if you're going to fight for Texas, let us know now. Let us know now. If you're going to pull in voters that haven't made up their mind, tell them now what's going on. Help them understand the reason why they should get out and vote. Help those few people, those other people on the other side that's trying to find a reason to vote. If it ain't nothing but a Texas message saying that we're going to make Texas better. Both of y'all have the background to do it, but you need to pull your messaging in one place. I told people about Gina Hinojosa and her background. I told them about James Talarico and his background. Both of y'all have a message, and you're the closest people that I know that can serve my purpose of a better government. A person that has concern about what's going on within the state of Texas. Yeah, you're going to go out and represent us, but you're going to bring something back, James Talarico, to Texas that we need. But why come back and try to push it on Governor Abbott when you know he doesn't have your best interest at heart? So come together with a unified message so we don't continue going down this path. This is the end of it. We almost coming up on the last day of registration. If y'all going out and campaign together, what you can tell them, hey, we're coming up on the last day of registration. If you want to change Texas, the message we're unified here. Look at us. We're here at the same place, same time, telling you what Texas look like when it's blue. When it's blue. You can't have a split message. You can't have a separate message going out. You have to unify at some point and realize that the Texas is bigger than a national message. You have to realize that at some point, this fool got $67 million in down ballot. They haven't had to run. They basically had to show up and tell those lies, and people got on board. Well, people are unwinding the lies that they've been telling them and asking them, where is the action behind the words that you are coming out with? And if you don't have a unified front, you ain't giving them an option. You have to give an option to bring those people into the fold. It's too close to the last day of registration. I don't know how to say it. We're in the campaign days. Y'all should be complimenting each other without becoming the same campaign. Gina Hinojosa is asking Texans for responsibility over the Texas government. Then talk about Texas government education. She is the person to talk about education. Her background supports it. Her background gives you backbone to say that can happen if you elect Gina Hinojosa. She didn't get in that fight for herself. She got in there for her kids. Then she went on to be elected over the school board. Then she went on to become part of Texas legislation. That is a positive message for the state of Texas. She understands education. Let me just break this down to you a little bit better so you can understand. Education, energy, healthcare, access, state spending, property taxes, infrastructure, water, insurance, state agencies, accountability. That's Gina Hinojosa for the state of Texas. That's the reason why when President, the man that's in office, said that he wanted to redistrict maps, he addressed it to the governor of Texas. The governor figured out a way to get it done. Gina Hinojosa could have told him no. Now, let me. I can't do that without doing this. James Talarico is asking Texans to represent them in Washington. Then his question becomes, what does Texas need from Washington? Federal health care policy, veterans, infrastructure, border resources, agriculture, federal spending, disaster assistance, Social Security, Medicare, economic policy, different offices, different economic policies. Bring back some money. That's a different type of office. That's a different type of authority. Same starting point, Texas. Gina's question, how should Texas government serve Texas? How should Texas government serve Texas? James' question, how should Washington serve Texas? Now, the voter doesn't hear two disconnected demographic campaigns going. They're asking about Texas. A voter hears Texas first. Abbott has something that Gina Hinojosa doesn't have. We're going to admit that. He has more money than Gina Hinojosa, and a tremendous amount of it, 67 million. And we shouldn't pretend otherwise. Abbott enters this fight with an enormous financial advantage. Money buys television. It buys digital advertising. It buys mail. It buys consultants. It buys organization. It buys repetition. Most importantly, it buys the ability to define your opponent before your opponent can define who they are. And what that's saying is that if he buys up all the advertising media with his dollars, Gina Hinojosa is not going to be able to match him. Hinojosa, can she solve that problem? Can Gina Hinojosa solve that problem by wishing she had Abbott's money? No. She can overcome the tens of millions of dollars, one really good television commercial, by producing one really good television commercial. And that's going to be flanked by maybe 10 or 12 of his on the other side. There's only one force large enough to overcome that kind of disadvantage. And you know what that is? People, neighbors, families, teachers, veterans, nurses, small business owners, church members, community leaders, young people, seniors, Black Texans, Latino Texans, Asian Texans, white Texans, suburban, rural Texans, urban Texans. Not as simple, not as separate armies, but together. Not as separate armies, but together. Abbott can purchase millions of dollars of communication, but there are millions of Texans. That is a counterweight. Not automatically, not magically. Organized, registered, talking, listening, ultimately voting. Money can't cast a ballot. That's the one thing that you have to realize. It doesn't matter how much money they spend on the other side. They can't cast a ballot if their track record is bad. I don't want people to miss this. A campaign account cannot vote. A television cannot vote. A politician, a political action committee cannot vote. A billboard cannot vote. A consultant cannot cast tens of thousands ballots. People vote. Money influences people. Money reaches people. Money organizes people. Money can absolutely affect elections, but don't underestimate it. Eventually, somebody has to cast the ballot. And that means Abbott's financial advantage has a natural limit. Election days when the polls open, a billionaire only gets one vote. A teacher only gets one vote. A CEO only gets one vote. A nurse only gets one vote. A politician only gets one vote. A retired veteran gets one vote. That's what democracy levels the playing field. But only when people participate in the election cycle. If a voter stays home because he's not motivated to vote, because he doesn't understand your messaging, because one is on a national campaign, one is on the other side saying, I'm here representing Texas, you're going to divide the vote. And when you divide the vote, guess what happens? Abbott wins. Abbott first became governor more than a decade ago. Listen to what I'm saying. He has the funds. So this campaign doesn't begin with promises about what he might do. There's a record that's out there. His record speaks for itself. His action, not his words, his actions speak for themselves. That record should be examined, not emotionally, not personally, factually. Texas Republicans have controlled the government for years. So ask the basic questions possible. How is it working for you? How is it working for you? Not your party, you. How is it not how it's working for your party, but how is it working for you, your family, your neighbor, your business, your school, your hospital, your electric bill, your insurance bill, your property tax bill, your community? Texas is wealthy. Texas produces energy. Texas has extraordinary businesses. Texas has agriculture. But if we don't have no place to put it because we put it in data centers, that's a whole different story. I'm just saying. Texas has technology. Texas has world-class medical institutions. Texas has major universities. Texas has enormous economic power. So after years of Republican control, there's a fair question that you should be asking. How much of that success reaches ordinary Texans? Ordinary Texans. I'm just saying, show me the standard. Don't simply say Greg Abbott works for the wealthy people. Build the case. Show who benefited from Texas policies, who received the contracts. Show where the tax policy changed. Show what happened to homeowners. Show what happened to renters. Show what happened to the teachers. Show this one. What happened to the public schools? Why are they going away? Why are you closing? Why are you taking over public schools and never giving them back to the community in which they was in? Why? Because you're trying to do away with Texas schools. So how is a normal kid gonna be educated if they're not near a charter school? I'm just asking you. How's a normal kid gonna be educated if they're not near a charter school? Do you have another plan? Because if you slowly closing all the public schools, that's some of the questions that you could be asked. So what happens to rural hospitals? You see, in those rural areas, they travel miles and miles to go to a hospital. They may have emergency clinics and stuff like that, but if they have a hospital, they're closing. They can't afford to stay open in Texas. So what happens that's what happens when you don't have access to health care. Electrical costs. I ain't gonna even go in there. I'm gonna let you figure that out because I froze my ass off when the electrical grid went down and we still haven't fixed it. And winter's coming. Nobody has a crystal ball on if it could be a cold day like that. So he's had chance? He's had a decade to fix it. He's running on stuff that's where he's running his mouth. He's not running on stuff that he's done. And here's something else. Follow his campaign money. Who gives it to him? How much? What industries? What interests? Compare those interests with decisions coming from Austin. If the evidence demonstrates that power interests consistently benefited while ordinary Texans carried the burden of it, you need to tell people that. You need to show where you reach that conclusion at. Put the evidence on the table. Let Texas decide. That is accountability. Let me change just a little bit, but I'm still in the same area. This is where Gina has the opportunity. Gina doesn't have to convince Texans that Greg Abbott is a bad person. That shouldn't be the campaign. She has to ask, after all these years, are you satisfied? I want to make this a simple campaign because we need to get you to understand that if you don't put Texas first and you don't hold him accountable for what he has done, after all these years, are you, as a voter, satisfied? We're going to ask a couple more questions. Are your schools stronger? Is your health care easier to access? Is your electricity more affordable? Is the insurance more affordable? Can young families afford to buy a home? Can teachers afford to teach? Can rural communities survive? Do you believe in what state government is? Is a working class family like yours? Is a working class family like yours benefiting from anything? If the answer is yes, Abbott has earned your personal consideration. If the answer is no, then Gina has to explain what she would do differently than what Abbott is doing. Record versus alternative. Record versus alternative. See, Governor Abbott has a record. Well, Gina Hinojosa is often an alternative to what his record has given you. Results versus proposals. You know, Gina Hinojosa hasn't been in the governor's office. Governor Abbott has been in there for almost a decade. What is his results? This close to the election, he was walking back one of his major decisions, just open up Texas to the data centers. Without looking at anything else, just open up Texas to the data centers. Now, right before election, now that everybody's coming out, now that people realize that he can go in and his people can go in these small communities in rural areas and eminent domain, the property that these people are trying to use, and at the same time, they're going to contaminate the water without having any responsibility to put back in clean water. Now he realizes that that's something that he did. Challenge him on that. Now. I told you. Now we just been talking about Gina Hinojosa. Let's talk about James Talarico. He has a different challenge. He's running for the United States Senate. That naturally creates a national political conversation. But national office doesn't mean abandoning the Texas message. It's quite the opposite. His message should consistently ask, what does this mean for Texas healthcare legislation? What does it mean for Texans federal taxes? What does it mean for Texans border policy? What does it mean for Texas agriculture? What does it mean for Texas veterans, Texas energy, Texas infrastructure, Texas Social Security and Medicare, Texas families? James doesn't need to become another national television Democrat. Texas already have enough of those politicians talking about Washington, following Washington orders. If he's going to do that, we might as well. I can't even say it. I'm going to let you figure it out. We got enough people telling people in Texas what to do. We need somebody that represents Texas. Texas needs somebody in Washington talking about what they can bring to Texas. I'm still going, but I want to do this because I'm looking at my time, and I want to make sure I get through this whole thing so you can understand, so we can have an understanding, not just me, but you too. Now we reach the heart of this whole entire thing. Now I've been presenting. The voter Gina needs is often the voter James needs. Think about that. A black mother in Houston doesn't become a different person when she reaches the Senate race. A Latino small business owner doesn't suddenly have a different grocery bill. An Asian American parent doesn't stop caring about education. A white suburban family doesn't have one insurance premium for the governor's race and another one for the Senate race. A rural farmer doesn't have two different water problems. A veteran doesn't have two different families. Same voter, same household, same concerns, two offices. This is why the messaging matters. The messaging matters. Texas First is a message of one state, one purpose, one people, one future. Because you're not here just becoming an elected official, you become the future of Texas growth, of Texas voters. You represent us. So if we're going to do better, if we're trying to go to a future together where you represent the voters and you have a message and you already been there and we're giving you accolades for being who you are, well, we expect something in return in the future. We expect you to change something. I just want to go here because I need you to show you something. And this was something that I had to find on my own. And most people won't do this research, but I want to share something with you. It's a representative of the state of Texas. His name is Gene Wu. His district is in Southwest Houston. House District 137. You know what makes it extraordinary? It's diverse. It's diverse. Asian, Black, Hispanic, white, immigrant, working class, different cultures. Yet voters can support the same representative. I don't bring up Gene Wu to claim his district provides some magical statewide formula. It does mention it for one reason. I do mention it for one reason. One reason. Different communities don't have to become. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. I'm still human. Don't have to become culturally identical to vote for the same candidate. They don't need sufficient common interest. They don't need it. They don't need it. Their interests and their values need to coincide at one time. That's all. Now take that principle statewide. Stop building racial silos. This is where political strategy sometimes gets lazy. Get the black vote, get the Hispanic vote, get the Asian vote, get the white suburban vote. Those categories can help campaigns understand an electorate. But people don't live inside spreadsheets. The black homeowner, the white homeowner can both hate rising insurance costs. The Latino business owner and Asian small business owner can both need reliable electricity. The rural Republican grandmother and urban Democratic grandmother can both worry about health care. Young, independent, and lifelong Democrats can both wonder whether they're ever going to be able to afford a house. This doesn't mean they don't agree about everything. They don't have to be a coalition. It doesn't require. They don't have to compete against each other. It requires enough of agreement about what matters now. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. That's what matters now. Don't ask them to become Democrats. This may be the biggest mistake of the campaigns could make. Don't ask them to become a Republican. Don't ask them to become a Democrat. Ask for their vote. Don't ask for the independent to join the Democratic Party. Ask for their vote. Don't tell Black Americans that they owe Democrats loyalty. Earn their vote. Don't assume that Latino voters belong to anybody. Earn their vote. Don't suddenly discover that Asian Texans 6 weeks before the election earn their vote. Don't lecture rural Texans because they're previously voted Republican. Ask them what they need. Listen to what their response is. Earn their vote. The objective isn't political controversy. It's political persuasion. You don't need every Texan wearing the same jersey. You need enough Texans making the same choice. Making the same choice. I've been on here for a while, and I'm just putting this out here because some of this stuff is just too late in the campaign to not understand that Texas first has to be your goal and your objective at this point in time. The people have to become the campaign. You can return the money to the people, that's good. If Abbott can outspend Gina, people have to let me just say this. People have to close the communication gap. One conversation at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one community at a time, one family at a time, one church at a time, one veterans organization at a time, one small business at a time, one college campus at a time, one rural town at a time. But those conversations cannot begin with, let me tell you why Democrats are better. I'm just putting this out there. Let me tell you why Democrats are better. You should ask questions like, what's happening to your family? What are you paying? What are you worried about? What does your community need? What isn't working? What should Texas do differently? Most of all, listen. Understand. One state, one purpose, one people. That's something that Governor Abbott is not doing. He's not listening to people, and he's trying to address Texas as a national state. I say national state. Because anytime you let a president come from the outside and come in and tell you what to do, he's trying to address Texas as a national state. Anytime, and I'm going to call this both ways because I like doing it. I like being fair to the fair. because Democrats are doing the same thing. When they pick a person out of Texas and cherry pick them and want to, at all costs, make them that person. Well, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked earlier when I was doing my thing about my people. That money is not being spent without a knock at the door sometime, someplace in the future. It's not being spent without that. Because they want to be able to make that knock in the door and ask you to change your position or ask you to vote against your people. It takes a certain type of person to be able to do that. It's easy to get in line and follow wherever the line leads. It's hard to step out of that line and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm speaking for my people. I'm representing my people. That's not an agenda that they want to be on. Ted Cruz is a good example of that. Remember when you was freezing? Where was Ted Cruz? Trying to get out of there, but he couldn't sneak out. That's a pattern that seems to be developing on the other side. What about Ken Paxton? What about his record? Since his personal record got brought to the public, what about that? But we sit back and we talk about Abbott has some money. Abbott's money has a strategy. Never underestimate the opposition. If I had Abbott's financial advantage, I would try to make this election too about national Democrats. I would try to shift it from a state argument to a national argument. I would try to shift everything on James Talarico to take away from what Gina Hinojosa has the ability to unseat him. So I'm gonna get you on a national message. So Gina Hinojosa's unseating him is not the message. But if you stuck together under one messaging strategy, one state, one purpose, one people, one future, under Texas first, because both of y'all saying you want to put Texas first, but you're not putting it together in a way where Abbott can't fight you. Where Ken Paxton can't fight you, where Dan Patrick can't fight you. You need to know who your down ballot candidates and start running as a pack. Run as a pack so people can see you. And if Gina is running for governor, she shouldn't have to answer for James Talarico. If James Talarico is running for Senate, he shouldn't have to answer the questions that should go to Gina Hinojosa. Every national Democrat puts national problems first. Every national Democrat. Because he's going to be in a pool of people fighting tooth and nail for their state to get the same representation that he has. So what you should be asking yourself is, what's the difference? Gina Hinojosa can make immediate changes. She can walk back some of this stuff that Governor Abbott has put in place. She can accept some of that federal money that was on the table that he turned down. And make it available to somebody else. Make it available to the people that need it, voters in the state of Texas. National controversies, make them separate. There's a possibility that you could lose both seats if they turn it into a national campaign and we allow the Republicans to put together a plan that's just focusing on national. They already know that Ken Paxton ain't gonna possibly win over James Talarico. But here's the thing: if they make it national, If they make their focus go national, you know what happens? They playing like they don't care about the governor's seat. And so we have an opportunity to care about the governor's seat early on. And we need to send such a strong message from that ballot box. And we're saying, hey, it's time for a change early, not late. Not have them question and come back and say, you know, maybe the ballot, maybe the count's off. That's the Republican Party. That's their strategy. Maybe something went wrong with the ballot box. Maybe Elon Musk or somebody was tampered with the voting machines, or maybe the voting company was something wrong. If you put it far enough ahead, you don't worry about that. That's not your fight anymore. So instead of them questioning Texas results, in the response by voting. Every time that somebody brings up anything that's out there, bring it home every time. Are we talking about Texas? If you're talking about Texas, tell me something that Governor Abbott has did to help Texas. Tell me something that he's not changing his mind on to help Texas. Tell me something that he did that redistrict Texas, that put the nation redrawing maps to overcome what a president has done. Let me just say this. James is going to have to work for Texas families. That does not mean national issues don't matter. It means that national issues gets brought through a Texas door. How does that affect Texas? What does it help Texas? How does it hurt Texas? What does Texas need? What will you do when you get there? Simple question. That's repeatable locally. What will you do that will benefit Texas when you get there? He should have an answer for that. It doesn't mean that Texas is left out. It means that he has to understand where he's going. If you don't, let me give you an example of somebody that's in a position that nobody never asked them, what are they going to do? What's the purpose of them being in that position? Do they know? Do they have a complete understanding? Pete Hegseth, call him whatever you want to call him. He was the Secretary of Defense that he changed to the Secretary of War, and it wasn't even his original idea. They changed from the Secretary of War to the Secretary of Defense years ago. That's not his idea. But right now, he's the least qualified candidate for that position in Washington that there ever has been. And that might explain the reason why we got a war going that we can't get out of. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that James Talarico faces when he goes to Washington. They're seeking two different offices. They're not seeking the same office. They're seeking two different offices. If Gina becomes a national Democrat, it allows us to become a national Democratic campaign, and James becomes a national Democratic campaign, Texas voters might stop evaluating two individual candidates. They may simply see Democrats. Then Abbott and Paxton have to successfully change the question. The question is no longer, has Texas government delivered? The question becomes, which national political tribe are you in? And in Texas, that could be enough to lose both seats. That's a warning. Let me get ready to get out of here because I don't want to be here too much longer. I'm not predicting victory. What I'm explaining is what would make victory politically significant if Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico assemble enough Black, Latino, Asian, white, young, older, urban, suburban, rural, independent, Democrat, and crossover Republican voters to win statewide. The Texas politics would change. Texas politics would change. Not because Texas suddenly became one political party, the opposite. Texas will become competitive. And competitive politics forces politicians to pay attention. Republicans will have to earn voters. Democrats will have to earn voters. Nobody could assume black voters belong to them. Nobody could assume rural voters belong to them. Nobody could assume that Latinos voters belong to them. Nobody could ignore Asian voters. Nobody could assume that suburbans are permanent territory for you to get votes. Competition makes a voter valuable. Community, it's everything. It ultimately, and that's ultimately what this conversation is about. Not Democratic power, not Republican power, voter power. Abbott's campaign account contains millions, but Texas contains millions of voters. Money matters, advertisement matters, organization matters, candidates matter, but eventually every political dollar is trying to accomplish the same final objective. Move a human to casting a ballot. That's where the voter has the final word. But only if the voter speaks. Only if the voter speaks at the ballot box. So here's the case. Gina is running to lead Texas government. James Talarico is running to lead Texas representation in Washington. Different jobs, different opponents, different campaigns. But the same Texas families will decide both races. Greg Abbott has the money. Ken Paxton has the Republican base. Both have every incentive to a national candidate to nationalize these elections, to make it about something outside of the state of Texas. Don't help them. Make Abbott defend his own record. Make Paxton explain whatever he delivered to Texas. Let me clarify. Since his personal record became a part of Texas, and he was a governing official in Texas, make him accountable for that. Because he's going to throw you some battles that he won. But if his track record doesn't line up with recent things that he's overcome, where do you think he's going? He has a pattern already. And as corrupt as DC already is. One person said it was going to clean the swamp. They widened the swamp. That same person said it was going to knock it out of the park or do whatever they have to do on the swamp. They made it deeper. The only thing that they did different this time than when they was in office last time, they didn't make their family members part of their organization. You know why? Because they could go to jail too. But if his family members are on the outside, they're not seen as an advisor to the president. They don't hold an office. Their money is their money that they make off the president. Remember when they showed you what his tax records showed? He don't have to show his tax records after this. He's made his money. That money's going to be divided up among his kids if he passes away. He's made enough money for generations. While you still worrying about who's in the lead of Texas, while you still worrying about proper leader representation in the Senate, he's made his money. He has made his money. His family is set for the rest of his life. If ever you thought that Trump can say, kiss my, it's now. That's why he don't care about nothing. That's why he can reach out to people that don't care about their state. Like Greg Abbott. and asking them to redistrict at all costs. At all costs. And that's the reason why, as Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico run their elections, they can't be separate in their messaging. And I'm gonna bring this up too, because I need you to understand. Jasmine didn't say she was against James Talarico. What she said, I'm helping down ballot candidates. What helps down ballot candidates understand that there's one single message out there is Texas first. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. That gives everybody the same message in the state of Texas. It gives voters, it gives undecided voters a purpose because they see a unification that's going to help them. Stop sending two separate messages. It's too late. It's too late. If you want to send those separate messages, stop today. You need to make this message all about Texas. I don't care what they're telling you. Your name is already known out there. James Talarico, your name is known. People know you all across the nation. But if you want to put Texas first, you're going to have to combine efforts with Gina Hinojosa and put her in the governor's office so your message resonates with Texans when you come back to Texas and you bringing all that stuff back to Texas and you put it in a Democratic governor's hand, not a Republican that can reject it. We have to be purposeful. We have to have a purpose for our message. And our message is one Texas first, putting Texas first. Man. We have to ask Gina, what is she going to change in Austin? Make James explain what he's going to exchange in Washington. Then put those cases before a Texas voter, not the Democratic voter, not the Republican voter, not the Texas voter, because the moderate Republican doesn't have to become a Democrat. An independent doesn't have to become a political part of the political crowd. The black voter doesn't own anybody their ballot, doesn't owe anybody their ballot. The Latino voter doesn't belong to either party. The Asian voter isn't somebody's demographics checkbox. The rural voter doesn't deserve to be written off. The suburban voter doesn't need to be stereotyped. They are Texans. Earn them. Listen to them. Speak to their interests. Give them a reason to participate. When Abbott's millions start to fill in television screens, remember something money can't buy in television and messaging? Money can't buy, can't cast a ballot. The people that do that, but the people need to hear one message that they can carry into their voters' ballot. Not a Washington first, not a party first, not a personality, a Texas first. Remember, Gina Hinojosa, Texas government, working for Texas family. James Talarico, Texas representation in Washington, working for Texas family. One state, two offices, one electorate, one message. Because if either campaign allows the other one to become about national politics, it's a possibility we could lose both seats. We could. One Texas message or two lost seats. We don't have to make accusations. We can build cases. We can, real history, real answers, real power. We, the voter, wait. I want to reframe from we, the voter, and I want to put something on there. We, the Texan voters, can elect a candidate that works for us in the state of Texas. If we do this, if we put Texas first, one state with one purpose, one people, one future. I'm just telling you, one future. Gina and James Talarico working together, doing this closeout process, doing these last 90 days, doing the end of the campaign, showing them that we need Texas to change blue. We'll make it happen. Just want to say that I'm out of here. And as always, I want to say thank God for giving me the equipment to do this. Give me the equipment to do this. And I want to say, as you go about your day, I want you to have a Texas First mission on your mind. When you see that one star in the Texas flag, I want you to have a Texas First mission on your mind. When you see a sign as you come into the state of Texas, and it was out there, it posted everywhere, don't mess with Texas. Have a Texas First agenda on your mind, because we're going to take care of Texas the best way that we know how. And evidently, Governor Abbott hasn't realized that. Evidently, the lieutenant governor sitting in office hasn't realized that. Evidently, Paxton hasn't realized that. But as a party, as a group of people that care about Texas, care about our way of life, care about how we go about business in Texas, Texas First. I'm gonna say good night. Y'all have a good day. I really enjoyed this, getting out here, putting this message out here. I hope you enjoy it. And I'm gonna fight for Texas every chance that I get. See you. Take care. Bye-bye.